What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today, well, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, we need to take a little bit of a look at some rulings for the Digimon trading card game. There was a little FAQ that came around this week, so we probably need to, well, have a little bit of a look at these rulings, what they are. Shout out to the lovely folks over at Ensan Gaming for providing our translation. They are frankly pretty gosh darned awesome. So let's have a look through these questions and see if we can't get some answers rolling. So the first one, we need to take a little bit of a look at a couple of option cards. So God's Breath, or Breath of the Gods as it is in English. One of your Digimon games reboot, and this Digimon can't have its DP reduced or be returned to its owner's hand or deck until the end of your opponent's next turn. Well, what if you combine this with Mega Digimon Fusion? The next time one of your Digimon digivolves from level 6 to level 7 this turn, you reduce the cost by 6, but at the end of the turn, you return the Digimon that digivolved with the effect to the bottom of your owner's deck. So, can you use Breath of the Gods to stop Mega Digimon Fusion from getting rid of your card? Unfortunately, yes, you can! The effect of God's Breath is still valid even until the end of the turn. Therefore, you digivolve into level 7 using Mega Digimon Fusion, and it will not be returned to the bottom of the deck. It will continue to stay at the battle area. Essentially, you give yourself protection with Breath of the Gods. Then, you play Mega Digimon Fusion, and when you come around to having to return the card to the bottom of your deck, Breath of the Gods is still giving you that protection, which means that this seems a little bit unfair, quite frankly. Bearing in mind, these two cards together, you're only paying 2 memory. It's not like you're paying a huge amount of memory to play the pair of these cards, and you're obviously saving a huge amount of memory when you actually digivolve up. I think it's fair to say people are going to be using it. Do remember you have to have a black Digimon in play in order to actually play Breath of the Gods. So that's kind of cool. Sticking with Mega Digimon Fusion here, you digivolve into Omegamon, and then you digivolve into Omegamon or Omnimon X Antibody during the same turn. Do you then put Omega X Antibody to the bottom of your deck at the end of the turn, i.e. you digivolve up into another level 7, bearing in mind that Omega X Antibody can digivolve from an Omnimon, so you can go level 7 to level 7. Essentially, because you digivolve into a level 7, but then into a different level 7, does that mean you can dodge the effect of Mega Digimon Fusion? And the answer, of course, is no. This is pretty consistent with other rulings we've seen in the past. When you digivolve up, you keep effects on the Digimon, so unfortunately the effect of Mega Digimon Fusion will still be working, and then you digivolve up, but you don't get to go around it, and that is frankly a little bit sad. So a Blazing Storm of Metal, one of those new option cards. All of your Digimon with Reboot get 1,000 extra power and gain blocker until the end of your opponent's next turn. So I play that, and my Digimon with Reboot get blocker. Well, what happens then if my Digimon gain Reboot later? Maybe you digivolve a Toyagamon, for instance, and then whatever digivolved from the Toyagamon would then have Reboot, but Toyagamon itself, which was there when you played the card, doesn't. I know that's unlikely because you would just have digivolve up earlier, but I don't know, maybe you de-digivolve when a security card comes out or something along those lines. The good news is, yeah, it totally works. And the reason is, a Blazing Storm of Metal just targets, for the entire turn, all of your Digimon with Reboot. It doesn't pick the Digimon with Reboot and then give them the benefit, in which case Digimon that gained Reboot later wouldn't have it. It is a blanket, all of your Digimon wherever they are get it, and therefore if they gain Reboot later, they also get the extra security check and the extra 1,000 power. Rowdy Rocker, that's another lovely new option card here. It says that you may place one red level 4 or lower Digimon card from your hand under one of your Digimon as a bottom Digivolution card, and if you do that, you get to draw yourself 2 cards in the process. Quite nice, you get an extra evolution card, you get to draw yourself a couple cards. Seems like a fun thing to do. Well, if I put a level 3 or level 4 as a Digivolution source of a level 3, what happens if D-Digivolve comes in? So, I don't know, let's use Machine Dramon as an example. I like Machine Dramon. Machine Dramon is one of the Digimon, black tend to have them more than others, that actually has D-Digivolve as a skill. I.e., when you play it, you D-Digivolve 2 of your opponent's Digimon. But if you look at cards like Machine Dramon, they always say, if it has no Digivolution cards or becomes a level 3, you can't trash any more cards. So if Rowdy Rocker has, and the reason for this basically is that you cannot have a level 2 in the battle area. So the reason this rule originally came round is because Digivolving or D-Digivolving a level 3 would leave you with a level 2 and you can't have a level 2. Okay. So what if you've used Rowdy Rocker and given yourself an evolution source? Doesn't matter. If you look at cards like Machine Dramon, they all say you cannot D-Digivolve a level 3. So even though you have Digivolution cards, you still cannot be D-Digivolved. Here's a fun one. So we saw the new Chrysalis Mod that came around in BT5, and it's got that fairly ridiculous inheritable skill that gives all of your Diaboromon tokens that come out Rush. So, riddle me this. Let's say we take that Chrysalis Mod and we Digivolve it into the BT2 Diaboromon. That's got the skill whereby when you attack, you play a Diaboromon token. So I attack with Diaboromon, you play a token, and that token should have Rush because you've Digivolved from Chrysalis Mod. But you actually get destroyed during the attack. You get deleted during the attack because a security Digimon has more power than you. Well, that token you played when you attack, because Diaboromon plays a token when you attack, does it still have the Rush skill? Can it attack this turn because you Digivolve from Chrysalis Mod, or because you got deleted during the security check, do you lose it? And the answer is, you lose it. Unfortunately, the Digivolution effect is during your turn, so when the Digimon that Digivolve from Chrysalis Mod is deleted, that goes away, and by the time you would get to attack with it, the Chrysalis Mod is no longer there. Essentially, like we said before, it's not giving a skill to the individual Digimon, or token in this case. It is a permanent thing which is always there, and by the time you get round to attacking with a token, it is not there anymore, which is a little bit sad. So Shoutmon DX. Shoutmon DX, when you Digivolve, you have Advance, which says you can attack even if the memory would go to your opponent. So I've got a Tamer on board, and I Digivolve Rise Greymon into Shoutmon DX. And then a bunch of stuff happens kind of all at once. So Shoutmon DX, because I Digivolve up, I may place a red Digimon card from my hand to the top of its Digivolution cards, and I'm going to choose Z Greymon, because Z Greymon then lets me delete one of my opponent's Digimon with 5,000 power or less. But you see, Rise Greymon has a skill here, which says that when you attack with a Digimon that's Digivolved from it, and you have a Tamer, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2,000 power for the turn, which of course is really relevant because Shoutmon DX lets you delete a Digimon with 5,000 power or less. If I can use Rise Greymon's skill first, then I can take a 7,000 power down to a 5,000 power and then delete it using this skill. But we know that the memory has gone over to my opponent's side, and we know that I'm allowed to attack regardless, so what actually happens here? Well, essentially, Advance basically ends your turn, yeah? The memory's gone over to your opponent, so the last thing you do is you attack with Advance. You shouldn't be able to attack, but you can because it's got Advance. So you need to resolve everything else first, i.e., you resolve the skill from Shoutmon that says you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 5,000 power or less. Then you do the attack, And the lowering power from Rise Greymon comes in when you attack. And unfortunately, at that stage, you've already deleted a Digimon with 5,000 power or less. So you wouldn't be able to take a 7,000 power down and then delete it. You do have to do all the other skills and then do the attack, because essentially the attack is an extra thing which is coming in, so it is the last thing that you do. Quite a complicated one, but hopefully that makes sense. So Sora and Joe, one of these new double tamer cards that came around in the most recent set. When one of your blue Digimon attacks, you may suspend this tamer to trash the bottom 2 Digivolution cards from one of your opponent's Digimon. Well, we know that sometimes we've got blue Digimon that want to rest your tamer. We know that resting a tamer can have some pretty nice advantages. All-Force Veedramon, when one of your blue tamers becomes suspended, you unsuspend that Digimon. So the question is, can I, when I attack, suspend Sora and Joe, even if I'm not able to remove any evolution sources, either because my opponent has no Digimon, or because any Digimon my opponent already have no evolution sources, so it's impossible for me to actually remove any? And the answer is, yeah, you totally can. And the reason is, it is a series of things that all happen in turn. So, essentially, you rest it, and then you look to remove evolution sources. If you can't, then you've just rested it, and we stop right there. And like I say, if you've got something like All-Force Veedramon that wants to rest tamers, this is a very important ruling, because it can be the difference between you unsuspending and getting an extra attack, or not. And then finally, we've got a ruling about Hex Blaumon. Now, Hex Blaumon says that when you attack, you trash the bottom 2 Digivolution cards from one of your opponent's Digimon. Then, if they've got a Digimon with no Digivolution cards, you gain jamming. And on both players' turns, all your opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution cards can neither attack nor block. So, let's say Hex Blaumon is out on the field, and one of them, their Omnimon, one of the ones from 1.0, from BT1, come out with only a level 6 Digimon as its source. So you've played a level 6, and then you Digivolve straight up into an Omnimon. Okay. Well, when you attack with Omnimon, you can unsuspend it by returning a level 6 Digimon to your hand. But then, in theory, you've then got no Digivolution cards, so Hex Blaumon would stop you attacking or blocking. So, is the attack still ongoing when you do that? The answer is the attack is still ongoing even though you've got no source. So essentially, at the moment you put the level 6 into your hand, the attack doesn't stop, the attack carries on, the attack has already started, but you will then have an unsuspended Omnimon with no evolution sources, so even though you're unsuspended, you wouldn't be able to then go and get a second attack. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to the lovely Ensign Gaming for providing our translation. Like I always say with these kind of videos, if you're going to be playing the Digimon TCG, you need to know these rulings. These are pretty gosh darn important. They are official rulings. So, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, now we know, and we can move on with our lives and play Digimon and have fun, safe in the knowledge that we know these important rulings. So, frankly, go team, ladies and gentlemen. Go team. But now I want to hear from you guys. I want to know which of these rulings make sense, which of them don't make sense, which you like, which you don't like. Go nuts in the comment section. But be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk Digimon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.